And the new trailer is not particularly good. It still has its problems. It's better than the original trailer, however. Here is some of what it looked like.
Disney's Snow White trailer dropped, and the internet exploded, but not with excitement. With over 660,000 more dislikes than likes, the backlash is unlike anything we've seen before. The glossy CGI, disjointed storytelling, and polarizing cast choices have left audiences furious, calling it a betrayal of a beloved classic. Is this the moment Disney's magic finally fades?
Has botched this Snow White movie every way it's possible to botch the Snow White movie. So you'll recall that originally the Snow White movie starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, you'll remember that film had a trailer so awful that Disney had to completely recut.
From the moment Disney announced their live-action Snow White, it seemed like controversy was the only thing for the project. The initial backlash came as no surprise. Rachel Zegler cast as Snow White was a choice that polarized fans. While Zegler is undeniably talented, critics questioned her suitability for the role, pointing out the disconnect between her public persona and the classic image of Snow White. Things worsened when Zegler, alongside with her co-stars, began making comments about the original story. These weren't harmless opinions, but scathing critiques that many saw as an attack on the beloved 1937 animated classic. In interviews, Zegler dismissed Snow White's dreamy romantic aspirations, claiming the character needed a modern update to reflect a more empowered narrative. Statements like, "She's not going to be saved by the prince," and "she's not dreaming of true love," felt like a slap in the face to fans who cherish the original tale. No problem with what Disney are doing. You think this is progressive and inclusive, and all those moaning about it should shut up. I think you should live in the 1930s actually appears, cause that's where you belong. The co-stars also chimed in with remarks that many interpreted as mocking the charm and simplicity of the original characters. The production team doubled down, promising a story that would modernize Snow White for today's audiences. This sparked a wave of public dissatisfaction. Fans felt Disney was disregarding what made the story timeless, replacing it with a preachy narrative that prioritized messaging over magic. People didn't just want a new Snow White, they wanted a faithful adaptation with a fresh perspective, not a complete overhaul. This Disney remake, and now because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away, and it's taken away because of quote-unquote progression and all that, and it's not really, as if the narrative shifts weren't enough. Disney's marketing strategy only added to the chaos. Instead of showcasing the film as a grand reimagining, the promotional material felt half-hearted. Teasers were released sparring, giving audiences little to grasp. Each snippet generated more confusion and criticism. It didn't help that every move was overshadowed by controversy surrounding the cast's off-screen remarks and online drama. By the time the official trailer was set to release, the damage was already done. Anticipation had turned into skepticism, and skepticism into outright disdain. What should have been a celebration of one of Disney's most iconic stories became a glaring reminder of how much the studio had alienated its audience. Disney's approach to marketing Snow White was nothing short of baffling. When the official trailer finally debuted, it didn't land on YouTube or other widely accessible platforms. Instead, Disney chose to limit its release to a few select theaters for a brief period. For a film positioned as a major project, this decision felt strange, almost like the studio was deliberately keeping the trailer under wraps. It didn't take long for the internet to catch wind of this odd tactic. Fans were left scrambling for any glimpse of the trailer, only for it to leak online in the form of grainy, low-quality recordings. The leak, while unintended, sparked even more conversation. Why would Disney, a company known for aggressive marketing campaigns, make their trailers so hard to access? It led to speculation that the studio was trying to delay public scrutiny. After all, the project had already been drowning in bad press.
Problem with what Disney are doing, you think this is progressive and inclusive, and all those moaning about it should shut up.
I think you should live in the 1930s, actually, Piers, because that's where you...
When the trailer eventually made its way to Disney's official accounts, the response was overwhelming, and not in a good way. Critics argued that Disney's delay tactics had backfired spectacularly. Instead of building anticipation, they had only fueled suspension. People began dissecting every frame of the trailer, amplifying every flaw. It felt like Disney had set itself up for failure by hiding the very thing that was supposed to win audiences over. The bizarre marketing strategy didn't just damage the film's reputation, it also highlighted a disconnect between Disney and its audience rather than addressing the criticisms or leaning into what made Snow White beloved. The studio seemed intent on sidestepping the backlash. Entirely the result was a trailer release that felt more like damage control than a celebration of a timeless classic. I witnessed gay people being villains in movies when I was 7. Dwarves aren't villains, and that. I think stereotypes are really important to what stereotype. You in the universe of Snow White, wouldn't it be better? I don't feel this. When the Snow White trailer finally hit YouTube, the internet wasted no time in sharing its thoughts. The reaction was swift and brutal. Within days, the trailer racked up a staggering number of dislikes, around 660,000 more than likes. At the time of writing, it was a clear sign that audiences weren't just unimpressed, they were actively rejecting Disney's vision for the film. The comment section turned into a treasure trove of sharp, biting humor lines like, "They finally made a movie no one will pirate, and this trailer is more entertaining than a movie will ever be," summed up the general sentiment. People weren't just criticizing the trailer, they were mocking it. The tone of the comments ranged from disappointed to outright savage, and the engagement quickly became more entertaining than the trailer itself. For many, the trailer confirmed their worst fears. The visuals looked overdone with CGI animals and dwarfs that felt lifeless and artificial. The colors were so oversaturated that the entire aesthetic seemed more like a parody of a Disney film than a faithful adaptation. Beyond the visuals, the trailer also suffered from a disjointed narrative. It seemed to be caught between paying homage to the original and delivering a modern take, leaving it feeling confused and incoherent. It was so fun. Oh my god, as a huge Disney fan, it was so exciting to finally get to go to D23. I live on the East Coast, so I was never able to go, and also tickets sell out like in a flash. So the backlash wasn't just limited to YouTube. Social media platforms exploded with memes, critiques, and debates. Fans of the original film lamented the loss of its simplicity and charm, while others questioned why Disney had even attempted a live-action remake in the first place. The response highlighted a growing frustration with Disney's recent trend of prioritizing spectacle and messaging over storytelling. I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. That is, she's not going to be saved by the prince, she's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love, she's dreaming about becoming the leader. She knows she can be. The trailer for Snow White tries to walk a very fine line between honoring the original 1937 classic and delivering a modernized retelling. The result is a film that seems stuck between two vastly different identities, and neither approach feels fully realized. On one hand, there are nods to the nostalgic elements of the original movie, the vibrant visuals, moments that echo iconic scenes, and the inclusion of characters and motives that longtime fans would recognize. On the other hand, the modernized approach feels like it's tearing down those very elements to make room for a reimagined, more progressive narrative, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in. Snow White is running for president. I'm launching my campaign. And the issue is that these two storytelling styles don't blend seamlessly, they clash. The nostalgic callbacks feel hollow because they're quickly undercut by modern themes that seem shoehorned into the story. Snow White, as portrayed in the trailer, is no longer a kind-hearted, dreamy princess wishing for true love. Instead, she's presented as a strong-willed, independent leader in the making, driven by ambitions instilled in her by her late father. While there's nothing wrong with creating a more layered version of Snow White, the problem is that this new take feels at odds with the core of the original character. The trailer positions her as someone who rejects the values that made her story timeless, leaving fans of the classic alienated. I think it was good. We didn't see anything, we're still waiting. You see yourself as the evil queen. You are not evil, you are not evil, you're a queen, but you're not evil. The same tension exists in the way the evil queen is portrayed traditionally. She is a figure of obsessive vanity and cold-hearted manipulation, willing to do anything to maintain her beauty and power. The new version, at least as glimpsed in the trailer, lacks the dramatic flair and depth of the original character. The attempts to modernize her motivations make her feel like a watered-down version of the menacing villain audiences love to hate. The disconnect between the old and the new leaves both camps, fans of the original and those seeking a fresh perspective feeling dissatisfied. Those drawn to the nostalgic elements feel as though their cherished memories are being dismantled. While modern audiences are left with a story that doesn't fully commit to its updated themes, it's as though the film is trying to please everyone but ends up pleasing no one, a mistake that often plagues modern remakes. One of the most glaring criticisms of Snow White is its lackluster visual effects for a studio as renowned as Disney, which has delivered cinematic masterpieces in the past. The CGI in the trailer feels surprisingly low quality. The magical creatures, once a hallmark of Disney's ability to bring stories to life, appear lifeless and artificial. The woodland animals, so charming in the original animated film, now look like oversaturated digital models with no soul or personality. The dwarfs fare even worse. Originally planned as a group of diverse magical beings, to avoid using dwarf actors, the Backlash forced Disney to change course mid-production. The final result is a strange mix of hyper-realism and animation that looks off-putting rather than enchanting. Their faces lack the expressiveness and charm that made the original characters so memorable. Instead of feeling magical, they seem jarring and disconnected from the rest of the film. This level of CG mediocrity feels like a step back for Disney, especially when compared to its earlier efforts. Think about the detailed creatures in the Chronicles of Narnia or the near-photo-realistic animals in The Lion King of 2019. Those films demonstrated what Disney is capable of when it comes to blending technology with storytelling. By contrast, the CGI in Snow White feels rushed and uninspired, almost as if it was done just to meet a deadline rather than to create something magical. "'Cause my mom is the reason I'm a Disney fan." Okay, so did she make you watch all the video or the movies when you were little? Like Disneyland Chrome on my face. No, oh my god, oh wait, you did. But now the problems extend beyond CGI. The set designs look cheap and green-screened, lacking the immersive quality Disney fans have come to expect. The costumes also fall flat, with Snow White's dress in particular receiving heavy criticism for its plastic appearance. Comparing this to the elegant design seen in Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast, it's clear that something went wrong in the production process. Instead of elevating the story, these visual elements drag it down, making the film feel like a low-budget imitation of Disney's former glory. We're crying on that stage. When am I not crying in public? It's so upsetting. Why were you crying? Oh my gosh, I saw that. We didn't even see the performances in Snow White are another point of contention, with Rachel Zegler and Galad receiving the brunt of the criticisms. Zegler cost as the titular princess has been in hot water long before the trailer's release. Her interviews leading up to the film have been riddled with controversy, as she openly criticized the original story and dismissed its themes as outdated. These comments alienated fans who felt she didn't respect the legacy of the character she was portraying, and that's a really wonderful thing. I'm always grateful, and I have to pinch myself for the love and the appreciation and the respect when it comes to her performance. Zegler's singing voice is undeniably impressive, and she delivers her lines with confidence. However, there's a sense that she doesn't fully embody the warmth and innocence that made Snow White so beloved. Instead, her portrayal seems overly modernized, lacking the gentle charm that defined the character in the original film. This disconnect is amplified by her off-screen persona, which many fans feel doesn't align with the image of a Disney princess. Galad's turn as the evil queen is equally divisive. Traditionally, Disney villains are larger-than-life figures brimming with charisma and a flair for the dramatic. From Scar in The Lion King to Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, these characters command attention and leave a lasting impression. Evil queen, by contrast, comes across as stiff and unconvincing. There's little of the obsessive vanity or cunning intelligence that define the character. Instead, she feels like a one-dimensional antagonist going through the motions. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.